Order 65 was one of the 150 contingency orders that the clone troopers of the Grand Army of the Republic were trained to carry out. Order 65 states that if a majority of the Senate or Security Council declared that the Supreme Chancellor at the time was unfit for duty, then he was to be arrested or if necessary killed. Let's begin the story. After Anakin returns to Coruscant from the Outer Rim sieges, he's been appointed a position on the Jedi Council, but not the rank of Master, which severely upset him, because now he couldn't search the Jedi Archives restricted section to find the power to save his wife Padme from his nightmares. But little did Anakin know, there was a lot of political unrest occurring in the background of the Republic leadership. Palpatine was pushing the limits of his power as Chancellor, and many senators have started to push back against this. Lead members of the Republic Security Council, Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, had secretly formed a delegation of 2,000, many of whom were a part of the Loyalist Committee, a delegation of senators that were concerned with Palpatine's relentless changes to the Galactic Constitution. Bail was working towards getting a petition together to take to the Chancellor directly by the delegation of 2,000, asking Palpatine to abolish some of his constitutional amendments, like the new Sector Governance Decree, which gave Palpatine the power to install a new system of sectorial governorship, all appointed by Palpatine and therefore in his pocket, as well as some of his emergency powers, in which he was given due to the Clone War. But Organa knew that without the Jedi on their side, they would never be successful. Bail Organa secretly meet with Yoda and Windu, lead members of the Jedi Council. They had to do this in secret, or else word would no doubt get back to Palpatine. The senators described to the Jedi how they need their help, that the Jedi are sworn to protect the Senate and Republic, not the Chancellor, that Palpatine is destroying the Republic and gauging power for himself, especially with the Sector Governance Decree. He explained how they have the delegation of 2,000 on their side, but also how they have convinced half the Republic Security Council to support them, and therefore they can activate the secret contingency orders of the clones if necessary. Yoda and Windu were confused, as they didn't know what the contingency orders were, but Organa showed them the list of 150 orders built into the inhibitor chips of the clones, only known to the Republic Security Council and the Chancellor himself to be used in desperate situations. The Jedi scanned their contingency orders as they found Order 66 and couldn't believe it. A top secret order that identified all Jedi as traitors to the Galactic Republic and therefore subject to execution by the Grand Army of the Republic. The Chancellor and Republic Security Council essentially had the power to turn the clones against the Jedi, and they had the Jedi dancing in their palms. They could be wiped out with a single command. This worried the Masters, since they were at odds with the Chancellor and his recent decision making, as well as them tracking back Darth Sidious to a top position in the governance of the Republic. No doubt Sidious is behind this, and Palpatine with one command could wipe out the Jedi. Windu says how Sidious could coerce Palpatine into giving the order, or Palpatine could be in cahoots with Sidious directly. One thing is for certain, they didn't like it, and needed to do something fast. They read through the rest of the orders, and find Order 65, the contingency order that would force the clones to turn against the Chancellor, and if necessary, arrest him. This is it, the key that they need, and Yoda and Mace agree to partner with Organa and Mon Mothma, and aid the Republic Security Council in its execution. Organa wants to try one more thing first. He hopes that presenting the petition by the delegation of 2,000 to Palpatine will open his eyes to change, but if this fails, their plan of Order 65 advances with full force. This happens the next day, as the delegation of 2,000 present their petition to Palpatine to relinquish the emergency powers granted to him, abolish the Sector Governance Decree, and begin ceasefire discussions with the Separatists. But Palpatine denies this, saying that the delegation of 2,000 must trust him, that he will do the right thing, which will be the complete destruction of the Separatists. Padme reports the news of the delegation's failures to Bail, who then reports it to Yoda and Mace. They now have no other choice. With the knowledge of Order 66 and Palpatine turning on the Republic, they tell Organa to gather the Republic Security Council in the Jedi Council chambers. They do this, and Windu greets them, saying they are meeting here because Chancellor Palpatine's constitutional amendments have gone on for far too long, that he is blatantly waging the Clone War, along with his accumulation of executive powers and changes to the Galactic Constitution. This is no doubt a grab for power for himself, and as the guardians of democracy, the Jedi Council will not let this happen. Bail Organa speaks for the Republic Security Council and tells everyone that he sought out the support of the Jedi, and if they vote in majority here, they can activate Order 65 on Coruscant and arrest Palpatine and restore democracy back to the Republic and end the war. He explains to the other members that what Palpatine has done is treason, and if they don't remove him from office, then there is no telling what he's capable of. The Republic Security Council take their vote, and it ends in majority, 60% voting in favor, and they use the Jedi Council's command station to send the message: execute Order 65 to the clones on Coruscant. The Coruscant Guard and the 501st clones stationed on the planet have their inhibitor chips activated, and they are mobilized as they head towards the Republic Senate office. The Jedi and Republic Security Council take the next transport and follow behind the clones. Meanwhile, Anakin is with Palpatine, having reported that Obi-Wan has engaged General Grievous in combat, but Palpatine felt something was off with the Force. The dark side had grown silent to him. It no longer told him his victory was assured. Anakin watched Palpatine as he struggled through these emotions, but behind them, burst through the door, the entire Jedi and Republic Security Council. Windu stands next to Organa and proclaims that in the name of the Galactic Senate, the Chancellor is under arrest for his crimes against the Republic. His constitutional amendments, his emergency powers, and unwillingness to give them back have shown he's not acting for the Republic but for himself. Palpatine can't believe it. This was it. This is why the dark side had grown silent to him. He turns to the Coruscant Guard in his room and commands them to arrest the Jedi for treason against the Republic. The trooper turns his head back and forth until he focuses on Palpatine and raises his blaster at him. Palpatine was trapped. He doesn't know how the Jedi have done it, but they ruined his plans right before he was to reveal himself to Anakin. He acts fast, opening his communication station, connected to every clone commander around the galaxy, and mutters the words, "This is Chancellor Palpatine, and I command you to execute Order 66. He turned towards the clone troopers in his office, expecting them to turn and fire on the Jedi, but they didn't move. They remained stationary, and with their guns pointed directly at Palpatine. His anger grew. How could this happen? Had the inhibitor chips failed? But little did Palpatine know, only one contingency order could be commanded at any single time. More clones rushed in around him to point their blasters at Palpatine, but the Chancellor turns to Anakin and tells him he knew it would come to this, that the Jedi have come to take over the Republic, and the corrupt senators have helped him do this. Anakin stands there conflicted and asks Windu what's going on, who tells Skywalker that the Republic Security Council have decided to execute Order 65 to arrest the Chancellor, well within their authority. The Jedi have not persuaded them to do this. It is not their decision, and they're merely doing their duty to the Republic. Anakin's confusion grows, but Yoda tells him they're here to arrest the Chancellor and not execute him. This calms Anakin. At this moment, he still thinks of Palpatine as a friend and mentor, not the Sith who's attempting to turn him to the dark side. And Yoda telling him that they won't kill him is assurance enough, especially since he is severely outnumbered. But Palpatine has a different train of thought. He will not surrender to the Jedi, and if he escapes here, he can take over the Separatists, fill in the gap that Dooku left, and destroys the Republic with brute force, and take over his rightful position as Emperor. He presses a button on his desk, which causes smoke to dissipate around the entire room, and Palpatine moves with extraordinary speed. He ignited his lightsaber and threw it out the window as it cracked, and he planned to jump down below. But as he reached the window, Yoda was already standing there, and had already predicted this move through the Force. Palpatine recalled his lightsaber and slashed at Yoda, but was forced to turn and block from Windu, who came from behind. To either side of him, Shaak Ti and Agen Kola advanced, and at this point the smoke dissipated. Palpatine, surrounded by the Jedi Council, red lightsaber in hand, and exposed in broad daylight. He attempted to strike through the Jedi, but the Council members that weren't in the fight used the Force to hold Palpatine in place, and Yoda cut his blade in half. Palpatine sent lightning at him, but Yoda caught it as the rest of the Council pounced on him and held Palpatine to the ground, putting Force cuffs on him and placed him under arrest. Palpatine was taken to the deepest level in the Republic prison with maximum security, and one Jedi Knight and Master guiding him at all times. Meanwhile, the Republic Security Council took over the Senate and held a meeting with every senator present, explaining what they had done and why they had done it. And now, they begin their plan to undo all of Palpatine's changes in the Constitution and revert the Republic back to what it was before he came into power. This would start the abolishment of the Sector Governance Decree and they begin engaging in ceasefire negotiations with the Separatists. Meanwhile, Anakin wanted to speak to Palpatine, to ask him about the power of Darth Plagueis the Wise, who could save the ones he cared about from dying. But he was in the Senate prison, and the Jedi did not have jurisdiction there. With this, the Clone War was essentially over, but for Anakin, he still had the problem of Padme's death. He had to find a way to save her from his nightmares, until of course, his nightmares ceased to happen. This was because with Palpatine's arrest, the future where Anakin would turn to the dark side could no longer happen, since Palpatine was no longer present to manipulate Anakin down the dark path, and therefore her death was no longer in the future. Although his dreams stopped, a bit of fear still remained, until the day came when she gave birth. He had pondered whether he should tell Obi-Wan, even Ahsoka, about his fears, but decided he had faith in the Force and himself. As Padme entered labor, and there were zero complications, as Luke and Leia were born, the first two in the Skywalker family. However, the birth of the children of the Chosen One was no small feat in the Force, and this created a divergence which was felt by the Jedi Council immediately. Yoda, Windu, Obi-Wan and Plo Koon rushed there immediately, not knowing if this was Palpatine's doing or whether something else had happened. They rushed through the Royal Hospital of Coruscant and burst through the door to Anakin's hospital room to find him lying there in bed with Padme and the twin children Luke and Leia, no doubtedly the source of the disturbance in the Force. It took a second, with Yoda, Windu and Plo Koon realizing what was going on. Windu goes to yell at Anakin, but Kenobi steps forth and calmly tells Anakin that he will be required to stand in front of the council in 12 hours, if that's okay with him. Obi-Wan looks back and forth between Windu and Anakin, giving Skywalker a slight smile at the corner of his mouth as he ushers the Jedi out. Padme turns to Anakin, asking what he's going to do, and he tells Padme that it was only a matter of time before they found out, and he's actually glad they did. He's sick of living in fear that their marriage will be exposed, and he will accept any punishment that the council deems necessary. Anakin returns to the Jedi Council 12 hours later to find they have been in a long meditation, debating through the Force what to do about Anakin, his marriage, and now his twin children, Luke and Leia. Windu wanted to kick him out of the Order. With the Sith's defeat, they no longer needed him, and he had betrayed the Jedi's principles. But Plo Koon spoke next, saying that if they did this, Anakin would no doubt have more children that will not undergo a Jedi education, which with children as powerful as Anakin's will be, this could be dangerous. They all understand this, but Kenobi speaks next, telling them that they're thinking about this in the wrong way. He asks them all to think about what Anakin has done for the Jedi, what he did for the Republic during the war. Having a family hasn't changed the good man that he is. Yes, he maybe has gone against a few Jedi principles, but maybe the principles are at fault, not Anakin. They debate on this more, as they come to an agreement with what to do. Anakin walks in and stands before the council, as Yoda asks him to speak the truth of his relationship to Senator Amidala. He states how he got married shortly after the beginning of the Clone War, and how he loves her with every inch of his heart. That his attachment to her has made him strong and powerful, and a far better Jedi. Yoda tells Anakin that he has acted against the Jedi Code. However, he is the Chosen One, and has always been granted special privileges. Yoda details how in the past, exceptions have been made for exceptional Jedi, including Revan, who himself had a wife and child. He tells Skywalker that they have come to a conclusion. They will allow Anakin to remain in the Jedi Order, and when the time comes, he can train his children in the Force if he so pleases. Anakin was surprised by this. He expected to be removed from the Jedi Order, but now he is everything he's ever wanted. He's a strong Jedi Knight, he's married the love of his life, and now has started his own family. Eventually, Ahsoka would rejoin the Order after heavy convincing by Anakin, and after a few years, Luke and Leia would join the Jedi, the first recruits in the Skywalker family, as they had one more child during this time, Shmi, and one more on the way called Jin. The Skywalker legacy was going to be one of power, and no doubt their family would be the future of the Jedi Order. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to watch What If Anakin, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka started their own empire, and What If Anakin was expelled from the Jedi Order. Please subscribe. I can see that 66% of you guys are not subscribed. We're giving away a free replica saber for 100,000 subscribers, so help us get there, and may the Force be with you.